Hey solos, should you stay at Pop Century if you are going to Disney World by yourself? Well, here's a little solo spoiler for you. If you are looking for a fun, economical option that has some additional transportation options and is a much easier place to get to and from some other activities at the end of the night, then yeah, Pop Century is a great choice for you. Hi everyone, it's Samantha. Olaf may not know who Samantha is, but now you do, and welcome to Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. In this episode, I am going to be talking about Pop Century, maybe everyone's favorite value resort, or is that too much of a solo spoiler for you? Well, I guess we'll have to see. This is a series that's happening through July and August, where I'm going to be talking about all the value and moderate resorts, providing an overview of the hotels and some pros and cons for staying at them solo. Last week, I did the 3 all-star hotels: All-Star Sports, All-Star Movies, and All-Star Music. This week, I'm doing Pop Century, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Art of Animation, but Art of Animation will not be getting its full own episode. If you haven't listened to last week's episode about the 3 all-star hotels, then where have you been? You can find those episodes and all the episodes, including this one, on Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. And when you are there, please make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share with others, all that stuff. In fact, these particular hotel episodes are great not only if you're going solo or if you're thinking about going solo, but it will also have some information that's just generally good for adults traveling to Disney World without children as well. So feel free to, pass along this episode and all the episodes to friends who might be a little solo curious, but also might be just like Disney adult curious. And this could help them make a decision about where to stay. It has been awesome connecting with you all on Instagram. That is the best way to get in touch with me. But also Threads has been pretty awesome as well. So you can find me on Threads as well. And I'm on Facebook. The podcast also has a blog, Disney Solo Magic at blogspot.com. And we're just motoring through the summer. Next week, I'm going to be talking about transportation options. The subtitle of that episode is the Skyliner really worth more money? This episode will be talking about that a little bit, but next week I'm going to be talking about that even more. And then all through August, I'm going to be talking about the 4 moderate resorts, which are my favorite resorts. So, because I haven't stayed at any of the deluxe, but whatever. So I'm really, really excited for you to hear those ones. All right, I think that's the whole preamble. Let's get into it. All right, so I love talking about hotels. You should probably all know that. I have mentioned on this podcast numerous times that there are 3.5 categories of Disney hotels: value, moderate, and deluxe. The half category is a deluxe villa, which is essentially the deluxe hotels, but that are part of the Disney Vacation Club, or DVC. We won't be talking about that on this episode or any of the episodes in the near future, because again, I've never stayed at the deluxe resorts. But I also appreciate that a few of you have reached out through social media and you were like, oh, you really need to figure out a way to do that. And I agree with you. I also think I need to figure out a way to stay at the deluxe resort. So let's manifest that for the last half of 2024 and or 2025. The value resorts, the ones that I talked about last week and the ones I'm talking about this week, are really designed, or were really designed, to be an economical option for families. And so when I'm talking about the Pop Century Resort or the All Stars Resort, I'm not comparing it to a deluxe resort, because that is not what a value resort is meant to do. And the fact is, if you don't want to be at a resort that's going to be full of kids, then a value option is never going to be a good option, because that's not what the value resorts were designed to be about. The value resorts were designed to be an economical option for families and groups like cheerleading groups or football groups that are competing in the ESPN Center, but also staying for a couple days. So if that's not something that you're going to be into, that's not the fault of the resort. It's the thing that you're going to have to prepare or plan for. Maybe you spend one less day at Disney World and upgrade your hotel to a moderate resort. So when I provide these overviews and when I give you my tips and tricks and pros and cons and all that stuff, I'm not pretending that the resorts do something other than what it's meant to do. I'm really comparing them in relationship to each other. And as I said at the beginning of the episode, maybe Pop Century is the best one. I don't think a lot of people would disagree with me, actually, but just so we're all very clear, that will be the thesis that I am moving towards. Okay, let's start with an overview. Pop Century, like the All-Star hotels, is designed in a motel style. There are a series of different buildings that are 3 stories tall. There are no balconies to the room. All the corridors are on the outside, and you make your way through the footprint of the hotel to get to your low-rise building. So it's not a hotel that has like a big tower that you go up. No, they're all these 3-story tall buildings. Pop Century has 10 of these buildings, and they are themed to the different decades of the 20th century, or the different decades of the latter part of the 20th century. So 3 of the buildings are representing 1950s, 2 of the buildings represent 1960s, 2 of the buildings represent 1970s, 2 of the buildings represent 1980s, and one lone building represents 1990s. What's cool about this resort is that the theming is woven through the different buildings, which I'll talk about in a second, but also in the music. And so if you stay in the 1980s, 1990s section, even though there's only one 1990 building, you will hear a lot of 1990s music. Maybe some people are into that, but I do not need to hear Matchbox 20's Push, the song Push, like any more in my life than I have, like in general, but also at the Pop Century Resort. I've only stayed in the 1980s section once, and I just feel like the song Push by Matchbox 20 was on repeat the entire time. And I was like, I do not need to be back in grade 9, but thank you very much for inviting me there. If you heard the All-Star episode, then I talked about the fact that the theming of the All-Star hotels is really on the outside of the buildings. So each one of the buildings has these different kind of themes, and then there are these big giant characters or objects or whatever outside the buildings that represent that theme. The same is exactly true for the Pop Century Resort, but rather than big giant like drum sets to represent the jazz theme, there are like big giant jukeboxes to represent the 1950s, or yo-yos to represent the 1960s, or like Rubik's Cubes to represent the 1980s. So these are these big, big, fun objects that really bring in this kind of like fun, whimsical history, cultural history of the pop century, of the latter half of the 20th century. If you go into the lobby, there's actually all these different like shadow box exhibits of different like toys and clothing and objects and music and stuff from the 1950s to the 1990s. And I mean, not if you're like a full-on historian. I kind of am a bit of a full-on historian academically, but that's a different story. But like if you're just someone who's interested in history, then those are really, really awesome kind of mini exhibits to go check out, along with the fact that you're in an awesome Disney hotel bubble. When I think of the footprint of the All-Star hotels, I think of them really vertically, like you walk into the main building and then to get to the building that you are going to be sleeping in, you're kind of going straight. That's not entirely true, but that's kind of how I envision it. That's kind of how it laid out. But in the Pop Century Resort, it's very much horizontally. So when you walk through the main building, which I'll talk about in a second, you're really going either left or right to get to the building that you're going to be sleeping in. This makes it deceptively bigger? No, it is bigger. It's just deceptive in how much you have to walk. Like that one time I stayed and I was in the 1980s building, I got off the bus and I was I got off the bus after a day at Magic Kingdom and I was like, oh my God, what? I have to walk where? Oh no, please just leave me here. Yeah, and then like the last time I was there, the last time I stayed at Pop Century, I was going to pick up something that someone was pixie dusting. I'll talk about that in a second as well. And I was staying in the 1950s, and like the thought of walking all the way to the 70s was just like too much for me. So it is a big resort. You can't really see everything when you walk in. So you might be like, oh, don't worry, it's a real quick walk. But because it's designed horizontally, there's definitely places that you can walk. Now, when you're booking the rooms, it's not like you can book like balcony or whatever, because there are no balconies. But you can request a preferred room, which is usually an additional cost. Those preferred rooms are closer to the main building. And if you have mobility issues or you just want to be like, look, I don't need to deal with the extra schlep, then that little upgrade, if you can afford it, is kind of a great upgrade. Every time I've done that, I actually feel like I was like pixie dusted by like Disney, being like, ooh, look how convenient my room is. And then I'm like, oh, right, because I did that for myself. I chose to stay at a preferred room. I am paying for this. So, like, treat yourself. You know what I mean? Stay in that preferred room. It is worth it. Pop Century has 3 different pools. They have the main pool, which is in the 1960s area. That's like the big, loud pool that has all this like splashing stuff and blah, 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 blah. Very fun. I've never swam in it. Then they have 2 like quote unquote quiet pools, which are not quiet at all. They just are a little off the beaten track, even though, again, they're not really that off the beaten track. One is in the 1950s area, and it is a bowling pin pool. And then the other one is in the 1980s, 1990s area, and that is a computer disk pool. And like, if you remember like 3.5-inch floppy disks, you'll know that that's just a square. Like, there's nothing exciting about that pool. So anyway, the 1980s, 1990s pool is just a big square. And actually that means it's usually the quieter of the 3 pools, because it's just not a fun pool for kids to swim in. It's just a square. It doesn't have any extra stuff. This pool is also the deepest of the 3 pools. And when I was there last year, I noticed that they promoted that like on like Monday mornings, something like that, they close the pool just for lap swimming. So if you are going to be there and you are a swimmer and you wanted to swim some laps at the beginning of the day, then definitely check out if that is still an option on the days that you're going to be going there. Like at the All-Star hotels, the Pop Century Hotel main area, like the main area that you are always going to be going back to, is the lobby area. The lobby area is big, giant. Like I said, it has those kind of mini cultural exhibits. Oh, that sounds really, that sounds serious. I don't mean that. I don't mean that at all. They just have like cool things on the walls. Go check it out. So it has this big, big lobby, and then it has a food court. I'll come back to that in a second. A gift store, which is pretty basic, pretty awesome. You can get all your stuff, as well as things like water and like toiletries and stuff like that. Also, just a reminder that if you're an annual pass member or get any sort of discount at Disney, then if you buy things like water or food at the gift store, you get your gift store discount. Whereas if you got a bottle of water at the food court, you don't get that discount. So there you go. Hashtag the more you know. Outside of the gift store are places for you to catch the buses to Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, and Disney Springs. What about Hollywood Studios and Epcot, you ask? I will get to that. Just hold on. Moving back into the lobby from the bus bay, you can find the food court. Now, the food court is just like the All-Star food courts in that there is a quick service place for you to pick up food, and then there is a big open seating for you to go and eat whatever you want. It is not quiet. Although I do know that people have told me that they have like taken Zoom calls and had meetings and like done some remote work from the food court like in the middle of the day. But just generally, like if you want a quiet dinner, a Pop Century food court is not going to be the place that you're going to go. The food court food is like basic, but good, just like most Disney food is. Burgers, fries, chicken fingers, pizza, and then usually one more grown-up option. There's also like a grab and go area where you can get salads, you can get fruit, you can get cupcakes. You can hear the things that I am always looking for. You can also pick up like grab and go booze, which is something that I look at when I go get my cupcake. Pop Century also has a bar, but it is a pool bar. It's not in the same building as the food court. You have to like slightly exit, and just as you see the pool, to your right will be a pool bar, and that is where you can get, I don't know, like daiquiris and beer and all that stuff. Just like at the All-Stars, there's not going to be a sommelier that's going to help you with a wine choice. Around all the pools as well are things like laundry facilities and the value resort. Those laundry facilities, like the guest laundry facilities, are always very, very busy. They're really convenient to use. You don't need coins. You don't need to bring soap. You can just like put your card in. You get a text when things are done, and then you change washer to dryer, blah, 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 blah. Really easy. I've done it. But note that at the value resorts, it is always much, much busier than at the moderate resorts. And at the deluxe resorts, on the odd chance I have bumped into the guest laundry room, there's no one in there. But at Pop Century and the All-Stars, woo, those machines are going. All right, so if you listened to my episode last week about the All-Stars, it might seem that Pop Century is pretty much exactly the same, that it really looks and feels and does very similar things that the All-Stars do. And of all the things that I talked about, I mean, you're kind of right. Just like at the All-Stars, it doesn't matter if you're staying in the 1950s section or the 1970s section, all the rooms look exactly the same inside. And I'm pretty sure, too, they all look pretty much the same in between each other. Like all the value resorts just kind of like look the same inside the rooms. And the rooms, again, are designed for big family groups. They're designed to like stand up to wear and tear. There isn't a lot of like extra furnishings. Like there isn't a lot of soft furnishings. It is what it is, and it's great. I mean, again, no complaints about it, but there isn't any extra frills. So then if all of these things are common amongst the value resorts, what makes Pop Century a standout? And there's a few things. The first thing, the less of the exciting things, is the fact that it is linked by a very short land bridge to the Art of Animation Resort. The Art of Animation Resort, fun fact, was actually supposed to be the first half of the 20th century. So Pop Century is 1950s to the 1990s. They originally had that footprint across the lake, across Hourglass Lake, to be the first half of the 20th century, like representing the Depression, I guess, and wars. I don't know. I'm sure it would have been really great. When I went there, like, not 20 years ago, but maybe 15 years ago, it was really weird because you could look out across this little lake and see these empty buildings. Now, you can go online and actually find some really cool YouTube videos that talk about the history of these hotels. But in short, the reason why the second Pop Century resort did not come to fruition is because of 9/11. After 9/11, people were not traveling, people were not spending money, and there just wasn't a budget to turn this empty hotel into the actual big hotel. So it just like sat empty for a really long time. Then in the late 2010s, Disney had a little bit more money and they reconceptualized what that hotel was going to be. They kept some of the buildings that were already built, but really spent a lot more time building new buildings and different amenities. So if you go and check out Art of Animation, it doesn't seem like a recycled building. It seems like it's total own thing, which is very, very cool. But that relationship between the two footprints of hotels explains why it's so easy to go back and forth. So Art of Animation is a value resort, but it has family suites. So if you're looking up the prices, then like it might seem like it's a little bit more, but it's because they have family suites. And if you're spending that much money, then like why wouldn't you just go to a moderate resort anyway? But if you're staying at the Pop Century, you can still quietly make use of Art of Animation, like use the other parts of the Art of Animation hotel. Go to their food court and have dinner, for example. Like when I was there last and I stayed at Pop Century, I walked over to Art of Animation for dinner and there were options there that they didn't actually have at Pop Century. And it was still like an extra burger option. It's not like it was like, I don't know, this big fancy filet mignon. In fact, in my episode about like what I ate over 3.5 days, I talk about how delicious that burger was. So, like in that particular day when I was at Pop Century, it was hot, obviously. It's Florida, it was summer, it was very hot. And like I wanted dinner. I didn't want to take like the bus to Disney Springs. Oh, blah, blah. I didn't just want to stay in my room. But having the option to walk to Art of Animation was excellent. It was so convenient. And it just was like, okay, I can move around, I can look, and maybe I'm going to get something different. And because you have that like quick walking option to like another ecosystem, like to another immersive experience from Pop Century to Art of Animation, like that's worth something. Art of Animation is themed around the art of animation. In particular, they focus on different Pixar and Disney movies like The Little Mermaid, like Lion King, like Finding Nemo, like Cars. And so if you have a kid, for example, and a kid was really interested in the Cars movies, question mark, I guess, because I've never seen them, obviously, then this is actually a really cool hotel to like go because the rooms itself are actually a lot more immersive than anywhere else in the Valley resorts. But if you're just an adult going by yourself, I don't know, like, do you really need like a whole family suite that's themed after like Little Mermaid? Maybe. Actually, maybe that'd be awesome for you, but maybe not. They also have in the Art of Animation lobby, they have like this light fixture that has, and on the walls too, like a wallpaper that has all these like drawings and renderings of early conceptions of these different characters and these different movies. And that is worth to just check out in and of itself. So, I mean, if you're staying at Pop Century, walk over to Art of Animation just to look at that, just to go and have a walk and just to be able to see some of these drawings. It's really, really cool. But the second thing that makes Pop Century just like inch out over the all-star hotels. I don't know, it's not an inch out, it's like a mile out. That doesn't even make any sense. That makes it like a mile better? No, that doesn't make sense. That makes it way better than the all-stars is the Skyliner. So one of the reasons why there's a bridge linking Art of Animation to Pop Century is because they also share the Skyliner. The Skyliner is an aerial transportation system that takes people from Pop Century, Caribbean Beach, the Riviera, those are all hotels, to Hollywood Studios and Epcot. When I say it's an aerial gondola system, that's exactly what it is. You are up in the air, you're being, I don't even know what the right verb is. I don't know, just like moved along. And a lot of people are scared with that as kind of a concept. I know my mother was the first time. But to be honest, it's like one of my favorite places in the Disney bubble. Like sitting in a Skyliner gondola by yourself over Disney, and it's always very breezy and cool up there. Oh my God, it is just so relaxing. And the fact that they have a depot for the Skyliner at Pop Century really does make it a lot better than the All-Star hotels. There are times where I have been at Hollywood Studios and I have gotten back to my room at Pop Century within 15 minutes. Like, it is incredible how quickly it can go and just like the convenience of it. Most of the time when you're in the Skyliner, you are either with like a couple people or you're by yourself. And it is always just so much more relaxing than being shoved into a Disney bus. At the end of the day or at the beginning of the day when everyone is tired and there's strollers and there's sunscreen and there's like dynamics between siblings and cousins and blah, 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 blah. The Skyliner is just like this very, very zen place. There are two parts to the Skyliner. So the Skyliner goes from Pop Century and Art of Animation to the Caribbean Beach Depot. When you're at the Caribbean Beach Depot, you can take a Skyliner to Hollywood Studios, so you have to transfer off, or you can take a Skyliner to the Riviera Hotel and Epcot. That is the same line. Oh, did I say there were two pieces? I guess there are three. So there's Pop Century to Caribbean, Caribbean to Hollywood Studios, and then Caribbean to Epcot with a stop at Riviera. Now, Caribbean to Epcot is a much longer journey than it actually is like if you were to drive there. Like it's actually kind of interesting because when you are like over Disney, you can actually see how close like Hollywood Studios and Epcot actually is. And the Skyliner, like, takes you on a little bit of a journey. Nothing that should prevent you from doing it, but it does take a little bit longer. And again, I kind of just find it like a really cool, relaxing way to spend some transportation time. I guess I'll talk a little bit more about it next week. But having that option of the Skyliner from Pop Century is so, so invaluable. And it's invaluable because you can maneuver through it as a solo much more efficiently. And you can spend a little bit more time with yourself than you can necessarily with the buses. Like, I find that the buses can be just very, very overstimulating. But the Skyliner, especially when you're doing it by yourself, I mean, even if there are other people in the little gondola with you, it still feels by yourself is just more relaxing, but also really like helps you appreciate being there solo. Like, really help. It's like a lot more meditative. You know what I mean? So the Skyliner can get you to Epcot and Hollywood Studios quicker, but the Skyliner can also get you to the Caribbean Beach Hotel quicker, the Riviera Hotel quicker, and the Boardwalk quicker. And here is why that is important. When I said that I was like really tired at the end of the day when I was staying at Pop Century, but I was like, you know what, a little walk would be nice. And then I walked to Art of Animation. It is so wonderful to have that option to like not be so tired that you just want to like go to sleep, but not to have so much energy that you want to like get like all dressed up or all this and wait in the line and go somewhere else, go to Disney Springs, all that stuff. Having an option that will get you to like another hotel quicker is so convenient to have different options when you're there solo to try different things and to explore different places. So Caribbean Beach used to be my favorite moderate resort, is now my second favorite. And it has a different place for you to eat. It has a couple different food options. It has a couple different bar options. And if you are staying at Pop Century, you can just take the Skyliner over to Caribbean Beach and go check out their bar. It's still going to be a pool bar, but there's a lot more comfortable places to sit. Maybe you want to meet people and like talk and chat. Maybe you just want to like check out their jerk chicken options because there will be food options that align with the Caribbean Beach theme. Maybe you want to take the Skyliner over to the Riviera, one of the deluxe villa resorts, one of the DVC resorts, but they have a great pool bar. I've eaten at quite a few times. They have a great quick service restaurant. They have a cafe on the first floor where it has like my favorite iced tea ever. It has a really cool little gift shop that I've bought luggage from. And like I have stayed at Pop Century. I've taken the Skyliner over to Riviera, and then like during the sunset, I have drank my delicious lavender iced tea, walked through the Caribbean Beach, and then hopped back on the Skyliner to go back to Pop and then go to sleep. Like, it was such a lovely, lovely like hour to myself to just kind of like relax, but I was still in like my sweatpants. Like, I didn't feel the need to like get all dressed up again because it was so convenient to go to and from my hotel room. And that convenient really can't be understated. If when you go solo, you like to do things like night things, that sounds weird. Like if you want to go to Jelly Rolls, the piano bar at the boardwalk, or you want to go to the boardwalk like dance club, or you wanted to go to the Abracadabra bar and get like an actual like cool fancy cocktail and all that stuff. Well, when you have the Skyliner option, you can do that from Pop Century really easily. If you were staying at the All-Star Resort, you'd have to like, ooh, I'm thinking about this. Okay, if you're staying in an All-Star Resort and you want to get to Jelly Rolls, the dueling piano bar, which I've never been to, by the way, but it's definitely on my like list of things to do, then you would go from All Stars, you would take the bus to Hollywood Studios. And then from Hollywood Studios, you could take the bus to Boardwalk, or you could take the boat to Boardwalk, or you could walk to Boardwalk from Hollywood Studios. But you still need to take the bus to Hollywood Studios. And like, that's a thing, you know? But if you were staying at Pop Century, then you can take the Skyliner to Hollywood Studios, which is way quicker and way less sweaty, and be at the dueling piano bar, I get like in 30 minutes versus like an hour. It now is just like a trip to the bar rather than like a whole big production to get to the bar. You know what I mean? So having that as an option, I just think is like really, really worth it. So Pop Century allows you to like save that money as an economical option, but also allows you the freedom to kind of explore the Disney bubble in a way that the All-Stars are kind of prevent you from doing. You're a little bit more isolated when you are staying at the All-Star hotels. Okay, so here's some pros and cons. Let me start with cons because I feel like I've talked a lot about the pros already. A con is that it is still a resort designed for families and groups, and it isn't really going to be a place where you can just relax for the sake of relaxing. It's also not really a place where you can just kind of like organically like meet people, not romantically, but just like like hanging out and chatting over dinner or over a drink or whatever. And you're like, oh, hey, you're here too, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you could, but usually those conversations kind of get like paused because like the other person's like, I got to get my kid. Maybe you're not interested in doing that, and that's totally, totally fine. But the fact is, like, if that's an element of your solo experience to just kind of connect with other people, you're connecting with families, you're connecting with parents. Parents are awesome. I love parents. Hashtag go parents. But it's not necessarily the type of conversation you might want to have on your solo trip. Another con is that there aren't really any amenities at Pup Century that are specifically for adults. They do actually have a really cool like running route because if you were someone who wanted to run, you could run around both Pop Century and Art of Animation. I can't remember how long it is, but it's actually a fairly decent run. I mean, I say this as if I've run it. I haven't. But when I look at the length of it or the distance, I'm just like, oh, go you running people. Wow. Another con, which I haven't really talked about too much in this episode, but again, go listen to the All-Star Hotel episode. But again, go listen to the All-Star Hotel episode, is like the room itself that you're going to be staying in is not going to be fancy. It's not going to do anything fancy. Like it's really just basic. And again, that's totally fine. But if you are wanting a luxurious experience, Pop Century or any of the value resorts is not going to have that as an option. But pros, well, like I said, having the Skyliner, having that connection to other hotels is, I think, really, really invaluable. I think it gives you a smaller community to explore after a really big day in the parks. And that, as a solo person, I think is such a really, really great option. Because if you have like a little bit of energy left, it really doesn't take much energy to go and check something out. You can also see the fireworks from Epcot at one of the beaches at Caribbean Beach Resort. So go think of that as part of your Pop Century experience as well. I also really want to emphasize, and this is very, very important, that you are not supposed to go to other hotels and like swim in their pools. That is not allowed. The pools for the hotel are for the hotel guests. So if you're staying at Pop Century, the pools that you swim in are the pools at Pop Century. However, I just want to say this is totally unrelated. That like Caribbean Beach Resort has a big main pool, but then it also has like 5 smaller quiet pools, and those are only for the Caribbean Beach guests. All of those pools are only for the Caribbean Beach guests. But the like 5 quiet pools, like they don't really have like gates or anybody like watching the gates or checking to make sure that that is your hotel pool. And like that's totally fine because those pools are only for Caribbean Beach people. But like, if you're staying at Pop Century, you should be aware the people at the Caribbean Beach will not have gates or locks on their quiet pools. So there you go. Also, the more you know. One of the quiet pools, actually, or I shouldn't say, one of the quiet pools, one of the pools at Caribbean Beach actually has a small little, what's what I'm looking for, like a snack bar. And so you don't need to go swimming because those pools are just for the Caribbean Beach people, but you can go and check out that little pool bar, go get yourself some nachos, get yourself some drink, and just like sit and watch the Skyliner, watch the lake. It's very nice. And definitely don't swim in the pool, because that's only for the beach guests, the Caribbean beach guests. Okay, let's just like segue back to Pop Century, because again, you're not allowed to swim in other pools. The Pop Century quiet pools are actually fine. Those are very good options. But not the Caribbean beach pools, but I only know about the Caribbean beach pools when I stay at the Caribbean Beach Hotel, obviously. Another pro about the Pop Century Resort, just like the other value resorts, is that there are Facebook groups where people will say when they're like leaving stuff, like leaving things like water or sunscreen, or maybe they're pixie dusting people, like leaving stickers or candy or stuff like that. I'm always on those groups when I'm going to stay at one of those resorts, and it's really cool to like get some free bottles of water or get some sunscreen because I'm only going to be there 2 days. So why should I order some if I can just use some that people haven't finished? I also will reciprocate by making sure that I leave things that I haven't finished or that I haven't even opened for other people to get. As a solo, I would not think about or I wouldn't worry about the safety part of this. I've never seen anybody. I've never like interacted with anybody in real life. Nobody would know that I'm there solo. I just like go pick something up and leave, or I go and drop something off and leave. So don't worry about the safety part of it, but it is a real kind of cool pro that you don't see at moderate or deluxe resorts. So, should you stay at Pop Century if you're going solo? I would say yes. Like, if this is your budget, I would definitely. Uh, okay, look, I don't know how people's money works. Like I don't know how people's money works. But if your budget is a value resort, I would choose Pop Century every single time, no question. If you're trying to do the cheapest trip possible, then staying at the All Stars is completely fine. But if you were on a budget and you still want to have like some extra perks, then if your budget allows, then go stay at Pop Century. I've seen a lot of people kind of in between the moderate resorts and Pop Century, and that's a hard call because I think that the moderate resorts just like do different things. And in that case, like in one of those early episodes I said choose a hotel based on price and vibes. And so if you were choosing between Pop Century and one of the moderate resorts, then use that criteria for you. Like you can just choose based on price and know that Pop Century will probably be the cheaper option and Pop Century is awesome. But if you can kind of afford a little bit more, then just kind of like take a look at the vibes of the different resort. Do you want something that's going to be loud and energetic and spread out and really designed for kids, but also has some convenient options to get you to the other places? Then Pop Century is the one for you. If you're looking for a more immersive experience that has some more adult touches and a hotel room that's a little bit more themed, then a moderate resort is better for you. So I can't just say definitively Pop Century or moderate because it really depends on you. Again, you do you, bibbity bobbity boo. It depends on you and your budget and what type of vibes you gravitate towards. Now, the moderate resorts are great. I love the moderate resorts. They all have their own like special charm. There's one I don't like at all, and I think everyone is going to be really surprised by that. But I have no problem doing a quick trip to Disney and staying at Pop Century. That does not feel like, that doesn't feel like I'm compromising any element of my solo trip. And in fact, just the other day, I was like looking up how much like a quick trip to Disney might cost if I go in the middle of October. And with my annual pass discount, All Star Sports was coming up at like 115 and Pop Century was coming up at like 175. This is with my annual discount, by the way. Like I've already said that. So if you are not an annual pass holder, you might be getting different prices. And that's just the beauty of Disney. And for this kind of quick trip, I was kind of imagining that extra $60 or $65 to stay at Pop Century for me just seemed worth it. Whereas if I'm planning also doing a quick trip in December, and that's going to be a lot more money because I want to do the Christmas party and all that stuff. In that case, I opted to stay at All Star Sports because it was the cheapest and I wanted to spend my money somewhere else. Now, before I was going to Disney as often as I was, which is like certainly not a problem / a bit of a problem, I would just be choosing from the moderate resorts because I wanted that to be part of my experience. Now I'm choosing based on price because I'm going more frequently. But if price wasn't an option, I mean, I guess I would stay at a deluxe resort, but if price was an option, I would go to a moderate resort. But if I have to stay at a place like Pop Century, that's also really great. So again, anyway, I feel like I'm just repeating myself. choose based on price and vibes if you're in between Pop Century and a moderate resort. If you're between Pop Century and the All-Stars, then I would choose Pop Century if the price difference isn't one that you're worried about. All right, so we have covered Pop Century. I think Pop Century is everybody's favorite value resort. Let me know. Let me know if it's not yours. Like, let me know if the All-Stars are like, you're a ride and die for the All-Star. It's like, yeah, let me know that. I'd be happy to hear about your experience with the All-Stars being like, yeah, as a solo adult, the All-Stars are like the best hotels ever. Yeah, like let's do a solo story. I'd love to hear those stories. So anyway, next week though, I'm not going to talk about the moderate resorts. I'm going to talk about transportation because I think that talking about transportation really helps kind of think about the different elements of the hotels, especially because the more money you spend on hotels, the more options you have for transportation to and from parks. And so I think it's kind of good just to kind of know what is out there in terms of transportation. And then after that, we're going to get into the moderates, and the first one is going to be Caribbean Beach. Okay, well, until then, have a wonderful week. And just remember that the bonus episodes that I'm doing in July and August is this like series of get rid of, and relocate to. So it's like marry, shag, kill. And I'm talking about the different parks. And and I've asked ChatGPT to like give me 3 random attractions. So I did Magic Kingdom last week. This week I'm going to be doing Epcot. So make sure you're subscribed to see when that little bonus episode, it's like 5-10 minutes, will pop up. And I can't wait to hear what you would ride, get rid of, or relocate to from the Epcot rides. All right, well, have a great rest of the day. Bye, everyone. Hey Solos, it's Samantha. I hope you like this episode and all the episodes of Disney Solo Magic, the podcast about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Just a reminder to subscribe, to rate, review, to comment, to share, so that other people can learn about the magic of going to Disney World solo. Also, connect with me on social media. You can find me on Instagram, on Threads, on Facebook, and on the blog disneysolomagic.blogspot.com. On Instagram, I am Disney_solo_magic_podcast, as well as on Threads at Disney_solo_magic_podcast. And on Facebook, it's Disney Solo Magic. Again, the blog address is disneysolomagic.blogspot.com. Until next week, bye!